Hello. Hello, everyone. If you're watching this live, just comment with where you're watching from. That way I can see you. My car. You're funny, Belle. Please be safe. This isn't a do it right now type of class. So you can watch this and do it later. But thank you for being part of the experience. I love this you. Trying to figure out what we're going to do for Saturday morning groove here in a couple days. I tried to think about it a couple days before. It's probably going to be some more yoga. I appreciate you, Bill. There's other people in here now. So comment with where you're from, where you're watching from, so I can see you, because I can't see viewers because I'm on StreamYard. So it doesn't let me see exactly who's here. So just comment with where you are watching from. I'm in good old cold Ohio. Hi, Omoshiabi. Hi, baby. I see you're clearly on your son's account. That's fine. I love you and appreciate you anyway. It was 18 degrees here in Ohio today. So I was hot while I was getting ready, and then I sat here for a second and got cold. And so I put a sweater on. So if I get hot and take off this sweater, y'all, don't judge me. So we got Belle and Omoshiabi. Who else is watching? Who else we got? I'm going to try not to make this a long live. I'm going to try real hard. But my godmother, Ia, Priestess Ianifa Oshun Funke, has rubbed off on me, and sometimes I get to talking. But I could talk anyway, so I guess I can't blame that on her. I won't blame that on her. It's me. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Tell me where y'all from. I know, Belle, I know where you from. Amy, I know where you from. Who else we got watching? There's like 7 people on here. Y'all can't be quiet. Y'all know I don't like my classes quiet. I like to talk. I like to be talked to. Hi, Khadijah. Hi, babe. Long time no see. Oh, you in Minnesota? Yeah. Okay, and so is, I don't want to say it wrong. It's either Renita or I think it's Renita. Yeah. I bet it's cold in Minnesota. It was 18 here in Ohio, so I know y'all cold. Who else we got? Where y'all from? We're going to get started here in a little bit. Ooh, we got 10. We're going to give people like 2 more minutes before I really start talking. So share the link to this video. Get all your people on here. I didn't want to put it in the description. Okay? Okay, but we talking about menstrual blood. Okay? We're going to use menstrual blood in a spell for your kids. I didn't want to put it in the description. But that's what we're fitting to do. I'm going to give y'all a whole spell for your kids using menstrual blood. Now, if for whatever reason you can't get menstrual blood, that's fine. I know some people are in menopause or have had hysterectomies, don't have periods, but you have children. You can still use this spell. The other ingredients will still make it work. Just make sure you divine first. But we are going to -1 degree. Oh, hell no. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Ohio sucks, but it don't suck that bad. I'm going to just go ahead and stay here. I could never. Ooh, Jersey, hey, babe. That's my Airbnb right there. My Airbnb. My Carolyn. My Omo Jolie. My Storm Gray to Oracle. Not Oracle. Oracle. Storm Gray to Oracle. That's my babe. Y'all, if you could see the chats between me and Omo Jolie. It ain't nothing about the coven, I tell you that. We just be talking shit all the time. all the time about life. We don't even be talking about the coven and magic. We be talking about dusty individuals. We'll say like that. Dusty individuals. All right, y'all. One more minute. Share this. Share it, share it, share it. Talking about menstrual blood and a spell today. And I don't really have an example of this exact working, but I have an example of the size. Hi, Lady Ishtar Adu. How are you? Beautiful. Thank you for joining and representing the bigger BSN. And dang, I just blanked on what division you're in. Shoot. What's it called, Lady Ishtar? So we can tell people so they can initiate if they wish or join. Because I really just forgot. And I don't know why. Because I'm also in Domestic Diva. Dang, what's yours called, baby? Okay, so I don't want to say this wrong. But it looks like Angina. And hello. And your profile picture, from what I can see, is beautiful. You are beautiful. Venus Society. Thank you, Lady Ishtar, dude. Thank you so much. Venus Society. Yes. I'm not in Venus Society, but y'all still my sisters. We be doing things over there. Love and appreciate y'all for joining. All right, so we're going to get started. So let me pull up my notes real quick because we're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff. So first, hi, everyone. I am Omowaware Ogbonyomi, and I am a goddaughter of Priestess Iyanifa Oshun Funke. I am a staff member at the Orisha Hoodoo Institute. I am a staff member at the Black Spectrum Network and Voodoo Institute. I am the creator of Enchanted Vibes, Spiritual Readings and Wellness, this beautiful channel that you are watching. Making sure you like and comment and hit subscribe and all those other things. Hit that little bell and get notifications. And then I'm also the co-founder of Vibe and High, which is almost open. And as soon as it is, y'all can start coming to me for your herbal needs that you need for magical purposes. I will have them all ready for you, the things that we need most, and shipped to you and all that stuff. So we're almost open, guys. We were so close. So close. During this broadcast, of course, this is a free class. So if you would love to show love to me, you can send love donations to Enchanted Vibes LLC. That is the Cash App, and it's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to do that as often as you want. Come through travel. Yes. All right. So today we're going to be talking about children, pure blood, and magic. So I did not, like I said earlier, I didn't put it in the title because, you know, the internet likes to play games, and so does Mr. Zuckerberg. So it's not in the title or the description, but we are going to be using menstrual blood for this spell. You don't have to, but it will definitely help. It's a little razzle dazzle. You will be able to still do this if you do not have access to menstrual blood. So if you are a man, you can still do this working. B, if you don't menstruate anymore. So if you have had a hysterectomy or you have other issues where you don't menstruate very often, but you need to do this work anyway, or if you've already gone through the change of menopause, you can still do this work. Before I even start, like really start, I'm just going to tell you that you need to divine to see if this work is even allowed. Okay. Before you even think about doing this, divine, ask what the outcome of this work should be. Pull 3 cards. That is your answer. If you don't know how to read, you can do it with tarot. You can do it with playing cards, whichever one. You can also use your yes or no method, whether it's a pendulum or cowries or pennies, whatever your yes or no is. However, I find that it's a little bit better to know what this is actually going to do before you start doing it. That way you have an idea and an expectation, and you can add that intention as you are doing this work. So let's get started. So first we're going to start with the purpose of this work and how I got here. So a couple of days ago, if you were in the melanated, what's it called? Sorry, y'all. Melanated witchcraft for Black women on Facebook, Anyway, if you're in that group, you may have saw my post a couple days ago about what you can do with menstrual blood that has nothing to do with like love and binding work, right? And when I say love work, I meant like trying to trap a man or significant other, if that is your fancy, right? Because that's usually what people try to use menstrual blood for, right? They putting it in spaghetti, trying to get people to eat it, doing other stuff with it, trying to get someone to love them that probably doesn't even need to be in their immediate vicinity in the first place, right? So I put that post out there just to see what other people do and to give other people ideas, especially new people, because new people have a lot of misconceptions about not only magic and spell work and all that stuff, but just hoodoo, voodoo, Orisha, all that. They have a lot of misconceptions because the internet is a wild place to be, right? So I wanted to kind of like take some of that out, give people other ideas, make them a little bit more creative, stretch their minds, put another wrinkle in their brain, all that stuff, right? So under one of the comments, I had mentioned that it's great for doing workings with your bloodline. And one of the women that was commenting had mentioned that she has some issues with her children where their relationship is strained. And so I have never really gotten a download so quick and so clear before in my life. Now, every now and then they come pretty quick and clear, but this one was really wild considering it wasn't even based on anything that I personally needed for me, or that I thought I needed for me, right? So it came really quick, and I put it in the comments, but it was very vague. And I kept getting like this loud. I don't know how you guys hear your ancestors. I don't actually hear like an audible voice, but it's like this nagging feeling kind of. And they were like, no, that comment is enough. You need to like do a whole class. So that's what this is. Okay. So this is actually a honey jar spell for you and your children. So parenting is hard and it does not come with like a set of instructions. There's a very loose rule book and some of those rules don't really apply to certain situations, certain lifestyles, all that, right? So there's a lot of trial and error. Unfortunately, a lot of error and a lot of trials, right? Especially if you have more than one kid or you have older kids, you understand. Especially if they've reached teenage years. If you've ever raised a teenager, it's rough on so many levels. Even if they're not considered a bad kid, there are still parts about raising a teenager that are not fun, right? And even the best of parents, there are struggles sometimes, right? And it seems like the obstacles are unending sometimes, depending upon who we are as people, who our children are as people. It's a lot. We have trauma from our parents who had their own trauma from their parents, who had their own trauma from their parents. If you are a descendant of American slavery, there's just a lot of trauma in our bloodline. And so there's a lot to overcome, right? And this is the part that like no one ever talks about parenting. When they talk about parents, like, oh, it's so rewarding, growing and seeing another human grow and be great and raising kids and blah, blah, blah. Or when they talk about the terrible twos, when they talk about terribleness and they talk about teenagers and how rough that is. But like being a parent, like doesn't stop because they become adults. And as we know, because we all have friends that are terrible adults. So imagine what their parents have to deal with. We're just their friends, but imagine what their mom has to deal with. Whoosh. So somebody says 2 18-year-olds. Oh, they got to be twins. Oh, 14-year-old and a 13-year-old. Lady Ishtar, I pray for you daily. Ronita has a 13 and a 12, both girls. Yeah. So if you have kids, you understand, especially multiple kids. Sometimes one kid is a handful, but when you have multiple kids and the dynamic between those children and the unending arguing and the fights over dumb things, it's a lot. Parenthood is a lot. It really is. But we love our children, right? They're so wonderful. Yeah. Anyway. um, but we all go through this phase that we are trying to be a better parent than what we had. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you had terrible parents, but some of us haven't had the best experience with our parents, right? And so we try to like overcompensate in other ways, and we try not to traumatize our kids. And so instead of traumatizing our kids in the way we were traumatized, we usually find a new way to traumatize our kids. It's like this unending crazy thing. But we all try not to do this, right? It's a big thing, big deal. But unfortunately, it's just like a part of life, right? So this working is to kind of help with that, especially if you've had kids where they're older now and there's still a lot of stress and trauma. Like a 2-year-old, it's a 2-year-old. You're going to be traumatized. Same thing with like a 4-year-old, right? Those are just rough ages because they don't understand anything, right? They don't even like the word no at this point. As they get a little bit older, they calm down, and then they get angry when they're like in their teenage angsty years, right? And then they grow up, and sometimes they're like, oh man, you were right, Mom. And then sometimes they may hold a grudge, depending upon what the situation was. It could be something that wasn't intentional on your part, whatever it is, but stuff happens. So that's what this working is going to be for. So if you have not done a working before, if you go to my channel, there are, first of all, hella videos for free. But there is an entire playlist series. It's called The Enchanting Basics of Ritual, something like that. It's a really long title. But if you go to that playlist, it will give you the step-by-step process of how to do a working. If you've never done one before, or you haven't, you don't have much experience doing them. If you're not in a mentorship, I recommend that you go watch those videos. If you don't have a mentor guiding you, if you do have a mentor guiding you and you don't know how to set up a ritual protocol from beginning to end, go watch those videos. And I will watch those before you do this specific working. But this is like an easy working. If you've never done magic before, do not use blood in this working. I will tell you that right now. If you've never done anything before, leave blood out of this working. Do it without that. Work with your ancestors and all that other stuff. But leave the blood out until you have done workings like repeatedly and they've been successful and you get more confidence. But I would not recommend blood magic to beginners. It's just not. It's very strong and powerful. And so I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have a mentor or you haven't been doing magic for a while. So for this, you will need a leak-proof jar. So it does not have to be big. This is about, I have a big head. So this is smaller than my head. But like a small sauce jar, small mason jar. This is one of the airproof ones that has the double lid or whatever. And this is not a honey jar for this. This is actually from the prosperity ritual from Hunsi Soleil that we did, the rich spirit. I made a big batch this second time because this was full and I use it. Okay. But it'll look something like this when you finish because you'll be able to see the stuff in it, and you want to leave some space because you want to be able to mix it and pray over it and stuff. So I wouldn't even really use something this big. If you can get one smaller than this, use a smaller one. Like, I don't really have one, but they have some that are like a little bit bigger than this. You want something that you can still fit your ingredients in. So you still want to be able to fit the ginger and a cinnamon stick in it, but it doesn't need to be too much bigger than that. And even if you need to, they have smaller cinnamon sticks, especially if you get the kind that come in that small container. But don't get like a super huge, like this is my Florida water. Don't get something this big. Don't do that because you got to fill it with honey, and honey's expensive. I mean, unless you have like a severely damaged relationship with your kids, don't get something that big. It's not necessary. You also want honey, and make sure you're getting real honey, pure honey. If I would say if you get African honey, it's better. if you can get it. If you live in a place where there's an African market, or you can easily get things genuinely from Africa, whichever, use African honey. Otherwise, get like a good raw honey that doesn't have a bunch of stuff in it. Cinnamon sticks. These right here. You only really need, I would say, no more than 2. But you can divine to see how many you actually need. Ginger. I would get like a whole piece of ginger. They sell them, and they're about this big. So a whole piece of ginger will work. And if you get a bigger piece, then you definitely want a jar probably about this size. This is a little bit smaller than my hand. And some dried orange peels. So I would take like a real life orange. If you can dry the whole thing, that's fine, but it needs to be dry because you don't want any moisture in your honey because it'll cause it to go bad. You're not going to consume this, and because honey has natural antimicrobial and antibacterial properties, but you want to use like a real orange. The peel is best, but let them dry out. You don't want any moisture in here because you want this to last a very long time, even though you're not consuming it. And then you're going to need a blue pillar candle or votive candle. So this is a taper candle. So you want something probably a little bit bigger than this because you're going to use this to seal your jar. These are usually better at actually like going over the edges because as it melts, you can kind of mess with the wax a little bit to make sure it goes over the edges. Sometimes these burn like straight down. So get a couple of candles if necessary because you might have to do it more than once. But get a candle, something like this, and get blue. Blue. Florida water. 2 pieces of paper. They can have lines on them or not. Doesn't matter. You can pull them right out of like a regular notebook. It's fine. But you need 2 pieces of paper. Cotton balls or cotton pads, a white plate, a cigar, a lighter, and menstrual blood. So I didn't bring my dropper down here, I don't think. But so for menstrual blood, now I recommend, we're about to have New Year's, right? And the New Year signifies new beginnings, all that, right? New year, new me, blah, 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 right? So we always say. Setting the tone for the rest of the year, all that good stuff, right? So your first period of the year would be a good time to gather this menstrual blood. If you are going to be menstruating during the new moon, that's another good time, especially if it's going to be ongoing work. If you're going to be menstruating during the new moon, grab that. Did I say cotton? Yes, like a cotton ball or a cotton swab. That way for the Florida water, when you go to like wipe stuff down, that's what that's going to be for. And I'll go over that for a second. Some people like to use their hands, which is fine, but cotton has its own magical properties, and so I prefer to use the cotton. So back to the blood. I have a menstrual disc, and I was going to show it to you guys, and I was like, that's a bit personal. Not that I care, but some people are going to be like, it's a disc. So I didn't grab it because I have reusable ones, so I have to like boil them and all that other stuff. After every period, I just boil them so that they get all cleaned out or whatever. But the one I have actually has a little cord on it. So you insert it, and then when it's time to dump it, like depending upon the flow of your period, like every 8 to 12 hours, mine actually has a cord so I can pull it out, dump it, and then push it back in. So I would highly recommend that you get one with a cord. And I always use rubber gloves. Like even if I'm at work, I have rubber gloves in a baggie that I use so that I don't get blood all over my hands. Because you are going to get blood on you. It's a period. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But I don't like tampons. I used to wear tampons all the time, and they weren't really catching anything because I have very heavy periods. And so I was just bleeding right through, and it was annoying. So I got a cup. If you know the flex discs, those work too. They just don't have a little cord on them. But you definitely want a glove because you have to go inside and like pull it to tug it out. but it has like a nice little reservoir. This is a measuring cup, so it's not really completely accurate, but it has this part is soft and it bends. So it's not like this hard piece up there or anything like that. It's like a very soft plastic that goes up there. Not like plastic bag soft, but it's soft. If you've ever seen the commercials or looked them up, it's worth trying it if you hate tampons and you don't mind sticking your finger up there with gloves on. Like I said, I use gloves. But once you pull it out, like mine has this little cord. So when you pull it out, you can catch it and there'll be like this reservoir of blood right there. And so you can use that blood for this work. Now, I wouldn't recommend holding on to the blood because it'll dry up. Blood stinks. Menstrual blood particularly is not like the funnest smell. Even if you are completely pH balanced, just blood stinks. So it's not something that I would hold on to. I would use it for what you need to use it for and dispose of the rest. You are full of blood. You can get more. If you need it for a couple of workings, do all those workings within like a day or so. That way you have it and it's fresh. But I wouldn't recommend holding on to it because again, you're full of blood. You're gonna bleed again. Just get new fresh blood. And then use a little dropper. So I'm really upset that I didn't bring my dropper downstairs. But if you've ever taken a pregnancy test, you know, a little plastic dropper, they actually sell those. And if like you ever made homemade oils, if you have like an oil making kit, they have those little droppers in there. Use those. How many drops you should divine about how many drops? I'm going to say 7 because 7 is the number of the ancestors and we are doing this work for our bloodline and we are our ancestors, right? So I would say 7, but divine just to make sure that is the appropriate number. You don't want to like fill it with blood. You don't need that much. You could really just use a drop or 2, but divine about it. 7 was just the first number that popped into my head. And again, if you can't get menstrual blood because you're not menstruating, ask if you can use regular blood. Now, that doesn't mean just go cutting yourself. They have those little diabetic things where you can test your blood sugar. They sell those little prickers individually. So you can use that, especially if you're familiar with blood magic. You probably already have a way to get your own blood that doesn't involve unaliving yourself by accident. So do that. You can also ask if palm oil is acceptable, and you would put it after you've cleansed your jar and you've put the ingredients in. Before you close it, you would want to put the palm oil like around the inside edge and around the top, like all around this edge is where you want to put the palm oil. That will help be a catalyst in lieu of your actual blood if you can't use it. So divine about that though. So first you want to make sure you get permission from your ancestors. I think I already went over that, but do a divination. Make sure your ancestors agree with this work as it is. And then if they say no, see if you need to remove the blood first. And if that's not the issue or that's not the only issue, check the intentions of the herbs. You may need to add an intention. So you'll just need to Google the magical properties of the herb. See if you need to add something to it. That type of thing. If your divination is still coming out no, say, can I even do this work at all? And if they say no, then it's a no. But if there's something that needs to be changed, you just have to use process of elimination to figure out what that is. So after you get your yes answer, make sure you gather all your items together. You don't want to be going back and forth, picking up items because you forgot something. So make sure you get everything together in your space that you're going to be doing this work in. And then you want to cleanse your space. So if you're using palo, fantastic. If you're using sage, then you need to put something else back because sage creates a vacuum and nature abhors a vacuum, right? And so you need to put some type of good, it gets rid of both good and bad energy. excuse me. So make sure that you put something else back into the atmosphere. So burn like frankincense, something with the intentions of healing and peace and clarity, things like that. Those are all good intentions for this type of work. And you can burn that while you're doing the work anyway, if you so choose. That is part of you setting your sacred space. So cleanse yourself and your area energetically. And then do your ritual protocol, whatever that is. So, and whatever that is specifically for healing work, if you do something different for healing work than love work, make sure you do that. If you're in the coven, you've seen our ritual protocol probably a few times. So make sure that you are doing that. If you are not in our coven, but you have a mentor, make sure that they, go over ways to set the space and call in the energies that you need and how to close that door as well. But do it however you need to do that. And then you need to cleanse all of your items. So get your Florida water. This is my big old batch. Get your Florida water, put your cotton ball or your cotton pad in it, and then you're going to wipe down everything. So before you put anything in this, you're going to wipe it down on the outside, the bottom, wipe around the rims. You can actually wipe around the inside. Make sure it's clean too. I don't feel like I should have to say this, but I'm going to say it. Make sure your vessel is clean before you put anything in it, like actually soap and water clean. Okay. But Florida water it real good. Florida water your plate as well, because you're going to be putting your herbs in that, and you want to make sure that that is energetically clean and physically clean as well. And then your writing utensil. I always wipe down my writing utensil and candle. Even if it's not one in glass, I still wipe it down with Florida water to clean, because you don't know what kind of weird ass energy from people touching it in the store and all that other stuff. So wipe down your candles too. Does anybody have any questions so far? I don't see any questions in the chat, and there's a lot of people on here right now. So I just want to make sure before I get too far, does anybody have any questions before I start talking about enchanting herbs? I'm going to give y'all a second, just in case, to type your questions, because there's a lot of people on here. I'm so happy, y'all. Make sure you share this video. I think I have a link in the description for other stuff. So click on the link for readings, other classes, all other types of stuff. And again, if you'd like to send a love donation for all this wonderful free information, Cash App is scrolling at the bottom of this video. Okay. Doesn't look like anybody has any questions. Okay. So, cleanse all your items with Florida water. Okay. And then for a little extra razzle dazzle, whatever you use. So if you use Palo or Adian or Sage or whatever, I wouldn't do it if you did Sage, but blow some of that in the jar. And I would like put your hand over it for a second to kind of like let the smoke sit in there for a second, and then move your hand so that it comes out. But let it kind of like fill up with smoke to get all that good energy in there before you start putting stuff into it. The Florida water will do that too, depending upon the purpose of your Florida water. But if you're using like a store-bought Florida water and you don't A, know what's in it, or B, know the intentions, definitely blow some Palo or whatever inside your jar. If it's your Florida water that you made and you know the intentions of the Florida water, and it's to be great, do great things, to be in alignment, and to accentuate all workings that are used and cleanse and purify, then you're probably okay. But, do it anyway. Razzle dazzle, right? So then on one of those pieces of paper, now that you've set your space, sit and meditate for a moment about the situation that you have with your child or children. And then write a very deep prayer on one of those sheets of paper using the PRAY method. There are hella classes on the PRAY method. I have one. My godmother has one. I believe Hugan has one on African School of Magic. So they're everywhere. Plenty of classes on it at BSN and OHI. So if you don't know how to do that, I mean, you could Google it really if you don't want to read the book. But there's I have a whole workshop, and that workshop was working. That prayer worked in 3 days after I wrote it, the one I wrote for that workshop. So go purchase the workshop. Use the link at the bottom of this description, or at the bottom of the video in the description. So write the prayer for the things you want to heal, all that good stuff, right? And be very intentional. And if you need to take time with this prayer, this will probably be the longest part of this working, is this prayer, because you want to make sure that it is thorough, because this jar is going to last you a very long time. You're going to be saying this prayer over this jar for who knows how long. So you want it to be very deep. Okay. Don't just do the prayer to get it done. You want this to be like a very good prayer, and then divine to make sure that that prayer is sufficient. Make sure you didn't leave out anything. Make sure you didn't add something that didn't need to be added, especially if you're you have a tendency to be petty. Don't put anything in the prayer where it's blaming the child. Okay? Don't somehow blame the child in your prayer. If you are writing a prayer where you end up blaming somebody, you're not writing that prayer correctly. Or putting the blame or passing off responsibility at all. Don't put none of that in that prayer. This is about being positive and going forward positively, and don't push off responsibility onto the child either. Take responsibility. That's what the R part means. Take responsibility for how you have not measured up, because we all make mistakes, right? We're not perfect. So make sure that you write this prayer the right way. Don't just do it just to get it over with. Divine, make sure it's correct. Once that prayer has been accepted, write a second copy of the prayer on your other piece of paper. And on one of those, write your name, your birth date, and your child's name and birth date at the bottom. Or children, if it's for multiple kids, right? And then once you do that, you're going to fold it in towards you, the one that has the names on the bottom. You don't need to write the names on both, just one of them. The one you wrote the names on and birth dates, fold it in towards you. You're folding it in towards you because you're bringing in the love and the healing. You would be folding it outwards if you were repelling something. But since you want something to come to you, you would need to fold it inwards. Okay, fold it inwards, put it to the side. And then you are going to put the cinnamon, the ginger, and the orange peels on your plate. Make sure you have cleansed that plate. You can also, so you can enchant your jar separately to hold the healing and blessings of this work, and then enchant your, I usually, when I am wiping off stuff, I also ask for any energy that is not conducive to this working to be removed, and to leave only the positive, good energy that will help make the working successful and long lasting. I do that when I'm wiping down each like physical item, like the jars, the pen, the candles, the plate, all that stuff. Be very intentional when you are doing every part of the work. So after you put those on a plate, you're going to light your cigar, and you're going to blow the smoke into the jar itself, remember, and then let it get a little bit in there. And then individually, you're going to enchant each herb. If you do not know how to enchant each herb, I have a whole video on enchanting. So it is on the channel. It is with the ritual protocol. So go watch that video. But basically, you're just going to get some of the smoke. You're going to inhale a little bit, and then you're going to blow 3 times. So you can go however it takes for you to get 3 puffs of smoke onto each herb. And then you're going to pray into each herb and ask it to do things very specific. So for the cinnamon, You are going to enchant this for love, protection, healing, power, success, and quickening. Sorry. So you want the love of you and your children to grow naturally, right? You want to protect this working, and then protect the bonds between you and your children. Protect your children, protect you from all negative influences, that type of thing, right? Be very specific. Healing, heal the relationship between you and your children. Heal whatever it is within you that has caused issues with your children. Heal whatever it is within your children that has caused issues with you. Do both, not just one of them. Sorry, I lost my place. Power, because you want this working to be powerful, and you want a powerful relationship with your children. Success, because you want a successful relationship with your children, and you want this working itself to be a success. And then quickening, so that this happens a little bit quickly. Honey jar spells usually take time, but they are long lasting, because honey moves slow, but it lasts for a very long time, right? So you do want to add cinnamon for quickening, because you don't want it to take years for this to start working. This is not something that will be done anytime soon, right? But you want to start seeing positive effects quickly. You don't want to have to wait 6 months before you see something positive happening in your relationship with your kids. In some cases, 6 months might be too late, depending upon the situation with you and your kids. So use that for quickening. The ginger is going to be for love, success, and power. Again, same intentions. You could say it a little differently. You could add some razzle dazzle to it, do whatever you need. And then the orange peels are going to be for love and luck. And I say luck because this is going to be hard work. And so you're going to need a little bit of luck, especially when it comes to the will of others, right? Because if you have this strained relationship with your children, chances are they're a little bit closed off to you. And so you need the luck to help open their heart, luck and love, right? To help open their heart to you and even open the door to healing. So that's what the luck part of that is for. So as you're enchanting, once you enchant them each individually, make sure you mix them together. And if you're using whole pieces of ginger and the cinnamon, that is totally fine. And the peels, but you still want to like make sure you have them in your hands and really feel them. So put them, like cup them all in your hands. I would say it shouldn't be too much. It should all fit in your hand, really. So hold it in your hand and really just like rub them together. You could, if you use a bowl, that's fine too, where you can put them in a bowl so that you can kind of mix a little bit without it like falling off the plate, the saucer. Or if you use like a bigger plate, that's fine too. But you want to make sure that you really take time with the herbs to enchant them properly. Visualize how this work will manifest itself in your life once it starts working. Visualize having the better relationship. Visualize being able to spend time with your kids without drama and irritation. If you have younger kids and they have certain, I don't want to say disabilities because that's not the right word, but if they have certain obstacles that they have to overcome on a daily basis, autism, things like that, you can still use this spell for that. And so kind of visualize a life for them where they have overcome some of those obstacles, or even healed from some of those obstacles. If it's one of those things that can really get healing, it just takes time, right? So you can add that intention as well, but really sit with your herbs and do that. And then once you've done that and you feel like you're in a good place, go ahead and divine to make sure that you enchanted them properly using your yes or no method, cowries, pennies, pendulum. I have my Ella crystal that doubles as a pendulum that I use for my yes or no's, or cowrie usually. Either of those is fine. Once you got the okay for that, go ahead and put them in the jar. And then do your drops of blood. Again, divine. When you're writing this out like formally, especially for your grimoire. You want to make sure you're exact. So get approval for every measurement that you're using before you actually do the work. So that includes the drops of blood. Like I said, I would start with 7. I got approval for 7. Based on your situation, you may need a different number. So start at 7. If they say no, use your intuitive powers to figure out what it is that they want till you get your yes answer. I wouldn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I wouldn't do that. That can cause problems. You'll be there all day divining. Don't do that. Use your intuition. If the number comes to your head other than 7, ask about that number. So once that's done and you've dropped in the blood, and then you can pour in your honey. And you want to make sure that you cover all the items. So it should be able to float a little bit. And you want it to be able to move. So don't fill your jar all the way up. You want to leave space because you want it to move easily like this. Sorry. You want to be able to have it move. It's going to move slow because it's honey, but you still want it to move. Once that's good, you got everything in the jar. You got the honey in the jar, the blood. If you're not using blood, put the palm oil around the top of the jar. If that was approved, put that around the top of the jar, as I said earlier, and then close your jar. No, don't close your jar. Sorry. Pray into your jar that prayer that you wrote. So like before you close the lid, hold it up to you, blow cigar smoke in it. If you don't have a cigar, you can use a cigarette. I wouldn't recommend a cigarette. If you have the recreational, use the recreational. We don't smoke cigarettes in this house, and I only have a cigar for workings. But if my boyfriend is part of the working, or it's something for the house and he's smoking while I'm doing the work, I have him blow his smoke onto the herbs and then I enchant them so that he is part of the process. Just a little tippity tip for you to incorporate the other people, especially if this working is for them. So if it's children that you have with them, there's nothing wrong with if they're open to it. He's open to it. He's like, oh, we doing this for money? Oh, you blow right in that bitch. You don't. He's all about that. So if they're not open to it, then whatever. But if they're open to it, try to incorporate the other people of your house into your workings when you can. So anyway, blow smoke in there. Once all the ingredients are in there together of some sort, or you can, or even I wouldn't do the palo, but you can. Don't do sage for sure. Don't do sage. Maybe palo. If you have a frankincense, if you're burning frankincense or sandalwood, if you can blow some of that smoke in there, or even like kind of like waft it in a little bit, that'll be fine. Just try not to get the ash in it. But yeah, you want to put as much good intention and layering into this as possible. And for those of you who don't know, the reason why we blow smoke on the herbs is to awaken the herb. So that it wakes up and it opens up to be receptive to your words. It's always going to do what it's supposed to do, but the more you talk to the herb, that's why I said make sure you physically touch them and pray into them, because the more you touch them and pray into them, the more they'll open up to you. So pray into it, and then divine with your yes or no method to make sure this work was accepted and is full and complete. And if you get a yes, if you get a no, ask if you need to pray some more. That's usually the answer. There's been times where I've had to pray for like 10, 20 minutes over something because it was like a big thing. Ask about praying into it first. Ask if it needs more smoke. Sometimes the herbs need more smoke. That's why I said put some in the jar once everything's in there and all the ingredients are mixed together. So pray over it. Get acceptance to make sure the work was good. Once you get that green light, put the top on. The paper that you folded, put it on top and put your candle on top. You want it to be a heavy candle. That's why I said don't quite use one this small. They have bigger ones. Take your candle and light it. And then as it starts to melt, put a little bit, like let some of it melt on top of your paper, and then set the candle on top. Especially if it's one of the pillar ones, that'll keep it from wobbling. Just a little tippy tip there, little tippy tip. Make sure you light it, let it melt a little bit, let it drip onto your paper, and then while it's still wet, hurry up and set it on top to stabilize it, so that like this wouldn't stay up there, because you see that little thing, not thing, that's part of the wick. These don't really have it because they have that metal piece at the bottom, but these, especially taper candles, because they usually have that weirdly shaped bottom because they're made to go inside the holders. So definitely make sure that you get it wet first and then stick it on, and it'll actually stay in place a little bit better, and it'll help keep the paper down too. And you may need to do that to drip some of the wax over the edge of your candle, because like I said before, some of these burn straight down, especially if you have to use one of these. If you have to use a taper candle, it may burn straight the fuck down, and you will have nothing to actually like cover the lid with. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Some candles are just made to do that. And if you were doing any other type of working, you want it to burn all the way around. It's a good sign typically when all the wax burns away. That means that you really did a good job with whatever you were doing. So, but if your candle isn't made to do that, it might not go very far. Like you might only get that much wax around it. So before you even set it on there, burn it, let it drip, continue to pray. Pray your prayer again. And if you're going to go in a motion, go in a clockwise motion, because you're putting good intentions in. Again, if you were doing something where you're repelling something, you'd go counterclockwise, but you're putting stuff in. So go clockwise to kind of get it around the edges so you can guarantee that it's like sealed. And then once you have a good little seal, kind of get some on the top so that whatever melts away when you put it in the middle, it's good. So make sure you kind of get it the whole top. That's just a little cheat code, because most candles are not going to burn down and burn over. You have to manipulate it a little bit. So let it burn, pray, get a nice little covering, and then set it on top. And then continue to pray over your candle. You don't have to, I don't want to say you have to pray the whole time, especially depending upon what kind of candle you got, because it's going to burn for a little while. So put it in a safe place. If you have I have a working altar where I burn things in general, but that's usually where I do my workings that don't involve food, is upstairs in my working altar. It's not anywhere where anybody's going to walk by. It's just somewhere where the energy is peaceful. There's no anger in that place. Only good vibes. So that's where my working altar is there. So while it's burning, keep it in a safe place, where energetically people aren't going to be walking by and messing with the energy of your work. If you need to go somewhere, put it in the bathtub. That's like the safest place. If you ever are doing a working and you have to leave the house and it's not like in glass, and you just don't feel comfortable, make sure you draw the shower curtain. If you have a shower curtain, make sure you draw it so that it's nowhere near the work, and put it in the bathtub. If you have a sink that's like flat where you could do it, that's fine too, but usually the bathtub is the best place. So the reason why I chose blue, make sure I tell you guys that. So blue is a great color for harmony in the home, which if your children live with you, you definitely need that. But even if you don't, you still want harmony. It's still part of your home, right? Because they're your children, even if they don't live with you. So harmony in the home, patience, and peace are the three intentions I wrote. But there are so many intentions for the color blue. There are several resources on that. So Google them. Google the intentions of the color blue. And if you need to add those to your working, do that. Pray over your candles as well. If you do candle light scrying, You'll be watching the flame and scrying anyway. That's a good form of divination as well. I know Hunti Soleil does that. I do not do that. I do stare at a flame though. I just haven't got to the point where I scry, but I will sit and like stare and meditate with a flame. I haven't done it in a while, but I do that. And then keep that other copy of the prayer underneath your jar. And then every time you feel necessary, shake and pray. If you need to do it, once a day, twice a day, 7 times a day, depending upon the situation, do it as often as you are led to do it. But I would make it a regular habit. And that can be part of your divination as well, as to how often you need to pray over it, at least at first. And it may be something where you're praying over it 3 times a day now, but you won't need to do that in 2 months. You might only do once a day, or you might have a set day where you pray over it. That's fine, but do a divination to determine how often you need to pray about it. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions? There are so many people in here right now, guys. And I got it under an hour. Yay! So I would keep the jar. I would say the best place to keep it once that candle is burned out is your ancestor altar, if you have one. Or somewhere, again, where it's not going to be energetically manipulated by what's going on around. I wouldn't put it in a room where you have guests, so I wouldn't keep it in like your living room, right? If you have an activity that you like, if you bond with your children while cooking, even if your relationship isn't great, but you bond with your children while cooking, if you have a space where you could put this and it won't be disturbed in your kitchen, you could, but do a divination. I would say wherever you pray often. So like if you pray, like I said, that's why I said your altar, because if you put it on your altar, you pray there anyway. You can hold this while you pray, doing your prayers, or just if you're just there sitting talking to your ancestors, which I do sometimes, especially if I'm stressed out, I just go sit in front of my altar and cry. You'll be able to have it accessible to you, and that'll help keep you remember to do it. A bedroom is a good place too, because if that's somewhere where that's like your fortress of solitude, your safe space, wherever your safe space is, I would say that would be a good place to keep it. The only place outside of that I would say would be the kitchen, because that's often how people bond, especially mothers. We typically bond with our kids as we're teaching them how to do life and cook and things. Like my smallest loves to freaking help me cook. Like if I don't call them to spice the things, they get upset. If I'm making spaghetti and I don't say, hey, come add especially even just boiling the water to the spaghetti. If I put a single grain of salt in that noodle water without them, they are angry. They have to be present for all seasoning purposes. They absolutely love it. So if you bond with your kids over something like that, it may be okay to put it in the kitchen, especially if that's the only time you and your kids aren't arguing is when they're helping you cook. Then that might be an acceptable place, but do a divination just to make sure. But I would say ancestor altar is primary place, safe place. Even if you don't have an ancestor altar, a sacred space to you, which could be your bedroom, somewhere like that. Does anybody else have any questions? There's so many people on here, and once I really got into it, y'all got quiet. Y'all must have been writing. Y'all need me to repeat anything? Do y'all need me to repeat any intentions? I'm late. Is this going to be available on your page? Yes. As soon as this is over, you'll be able to watch the replay. I believe it's like instantly available. You might even be able to rewind if you're watching it live. I know I've been able to rewind sometimes. So it's going to be immediately available. It's not going nowhere. Does anybody else? Oh, you're welcome. That looks like Michaela. I wasn't sure, but it looks like Michaela. Does anybody else have any questions? Questions, comments, or concerns? How do you feel about the class? Did you enjoy the class? How about that? Let's do that. If you enjoyed the class, I see a yes. You enjoyed the class and you can do emojis. Put white hearts for me. Because y'all know I'll be wearing a white. I got permission to wear blue. I had to get permission for this. I asked if I could wear a blue head wrap for the healing and peace and tranquility and serenity. And they said yes. So, all right. Anything else? All right, y'all. We're right at an hour. Woo. Finished one another hour. Aren't y'all proud of me? I'm proud of me. Shucks. All right. So, again, this was a free class. So, love donations to Enchanted Vibes LLC. Muchas gracias. Just kidding. Muchas gracias. I don't really say it like that. Thank you, Lady Ishtar. Thank you. Dang, why'd I forget your Omo name? Shish. Thank you, Katoya. I'll say it like that. Thank you, Katoya. Thank you, Brandy. This was wonderful. Oh, I love all the white hearts. Yeah, they're popping up now. I think it's on a delay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Remember, click the link in the description for readings, other videos. If you would like to join the Orisha Hoodoo Institute's Community Outreach Program, the link for that is there. So many things if you go to that link. Saturday Morning Groove will be this weekend, even though it is Christmas Eve. We still going to be getting up and getting our lives together, okay? We're going to be shaking. Yes, Omo Nigbein. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Omo Shiebi. Anyway, click the link in the description. Lots of fun stuff there. Ancestral Life Path readings. I'm learning how to do those, y'all. But until then, go to either blackspectrumnetwork.com or the Voodoo Institute. And there are hella priestesses on there that do wonderful ancestral life path readings. Hunti Soleil, Hunti Se, Hunti La Belle La Venus, the Love Goddess, the Garden Goddess. I can't remember how to say her Hunti name, and I don't want to mess it up because we don't mess up sacred names here. But yeah, plenty of beautiful, wonderful priestesses that can do ancestral life path readings. My godmother does ancestral life path readings as well, but she be busy. And she's an Iyanifa, so you're going to pay a little bit for her to do it. Thank you. Thank you for the love donations. I see them coming through now. Thank you. So yeah, ancestral life path readings. I'm learning how to do those. I'm so excited to be able to offer that to you guys here. Probably in the next few months, I'll be able to do it. I want to make sure I get real good before I start doing them for other people. But I have other other services and offerings. If you click the link that's in the description, Saturday Morning Groove is on there. It's free workout class Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern time. 5 a.m. Pacific. And yes, every now and then I have a 5 a.m. on there, and I love and appreciate y'all for supporting and coming out and sweating with me that early in the freaking morning. Because we be sweating, y'all. We be tired, but we be energized at the same time because I don't never just get to take a nap right after. I end up having to start my day and go be a mom and things. So yeah. I think that's it. I think I spent 5 minutes trying to tell y'all bye. So thank you all for joining me. And remember to keep your head so high you don't even see the haters. Peace. Bye, y'all. Love you. Mwah. Mwah. Mwah.